Dodgers take down the Mets 8-0 last night. Is this series over or can New York make a comeback? We'll break it down next. Yes, welcome on into First Pitch for Thursday, October 17th. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. Follow me on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. He's Christian Rauh. Follow him on Twitter at Christian S. Rauh, R-A-U-H. And Christian, one game last night, Los Angeles Dodgers versus New York Mets, and it wasn't necessarily close. Citi Field was rocking early. That quickly came to an end in an 8-0 victory by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Lot to get to from this game, right? Walker Buehler, only 4 innings, but 4 scoreless innings, strikes out 6. Doesn't have great control, doesn't have great velocity, but his pitches feel like they have some pretty decent movement to them. It's the best movement he's had all year on the sweeper, the most vertical break on the fastball. Kike Hernandez hits a homer. Shohei Ohtani goes deep late. I think I want to start with, let's start with them before we get to the Mets. What was bigger in this game? Was it Kike Hernandez continuing his hot postseason, or was it Walker Buehler kind of rounding into form?
I'm going to lean towards Walker Buehler. The Hernandez portion is really exciting, and I think that's something that we should continue to pay attention to. I mean, a 983 OPS so far in the postseason is really incredible. I mean, blame it on his pink suit he came in walking into the game. I don't know what you want to do. However, I got to lean towards Walker Buehler on this one. Reason behind it, Lindsay, is because his last start in the postseason was dreadful, and the pitching rotation of the Dodgers needs all the help they can get. They finally get something out of Walker Buehler where it closely resembled what we've seen from him in the past, where we were talking about him being the potential ace of this club for the future of the club before all of his injuries. So I think this is exactly what you need from a guy that you're striving to get some help out of the rotation, trying to get to the World Series. So yeah, I have to lean towards him. This is the start that I've been begging Walker Buehler to have to show that, okay, it's finally time. He's going to be a free agent in 2025 in this winter for 2025. You finally need to make some starts to prove that you are able to be in a rotation next year, regardless if it's the Dodgers or not. This one finally showed, okay, we might be finally seeing the old Walker Buehler again. I'm not a fully on board yet, but it's enough to show me that there's still a chance. You're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah, this is definitely, I think this is, I guess a better question of what I should have asked was, is this better for the Dodgers or for Walker Buehler? And I do think this is big for the Dodgers, right? We saw Flaherty rebound from some rough starts to be great. Now we've seen Walker Buehler be, I'm not going to call him great, was good, right? 4 scoreless innings is not bad. Yamamoto going tonight. It feels like this is what the Dodgers needed for a team that has struggled to fill out a rotation down the stretch. And in the postseason, we've seen multiple bullpen games from them already. This was definitely a welcome sight for the Dodgers. I do think Kike being hot is important to keep in mind, though, simply because of how often he plays. With all the different situations they have going on, with the injuries, with all of those things, Kike plays every day, and he plays some pretty important positions, right? He started in center field last night. When Freddie Freeman left the game late, obviously Freddie's trying to play through an injury, through an ankle injury. Kike kicked down to third base when Max Muncy moved to first. So, I mean, he's playing center field, he's playing third base, he's playing second base. He can stand at short. He's not really playing short, but him being hot kind of helps, doesn't completely take care of it, but it kind of helps offset Mookie Betts batting 200 in the postseason. Shohei Ohtani, who we're going to get to in a second, with some weird stats that may be coincidence, maybe not. I think I figured out what's going on there. But with just an offense that hasn't seen the production you expected from the 3 MVPs up top, him being hot in the postseason has been, I think, a bigger part of the Dodgers' success than maybe we've been giving them credit for. I feel like a lot of the credit has just kind of automatically gone to those big three. Teoscar Hernandez has been really good. Although in the postseason, again, he's only batting like 207 or something. But it's guys like Tommy Edman, who's playing shortstop and center field. It's guys like Kike Hernandez, who's playing center field and both second and third. Like, it's these guys who have been powering the Dodgers in the postseason. It's Max Muncy, who he batted cleanup last night. He hasn't been great in the regular season. He's batting almost 270 with a 1.78 OPS this postseason. So I think the Kike thing is relevant simply because, kind of like the Yankees, we're seeing what these teams are capable of, even when the biggest of big stars are not producing like they can, right? With the Yankees, it's really just Aaron Judge. With the Dodgers, you really haven't seen the performances they're capable of from Freeman or Betts or Ohtani. All three of them, the highest batting average is 259 from Freeman. Again, Betts is 200, Ohtani's 226. And I think that kind of says, now that the pitching is rounding into the starting pitching, it's rounding into form, this Dodgers team is maybe a little bit scarier than we were giving them credit for, even just last week.
One of the biggest concerns that we've heard from the Dodgers all year long was that they're too top heavy. Was there enough along the entire lineup for them to actually make a run? And the funny thing is that the depth behind the Dodgers right now is actually what is pushing them into continuing and getting this lead. It's not the big three, if you will, of Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. So that's what's interesting. That's what makes baseball so dang fun, Lindsay. But I will say this one more time. I think the Walker Buehler thing is that much important. I consider it being probably the most important thing of the series so far, because what you have done now is you have set yourself up for success to win this 1 in 5 and to win it without another one of those bullpen games, essentially, if you don't want to have it, but you still have the option to do so as well in game 5 if you want to. They only use Kopech for an inning. They only use Ryan Brazier for an inning and Ryan Trennan for an inning. Only Brazier hit 20 pitches. So all three of them are still all of them are still, ready to go. They're still available. But if you don't want to do that bullpen game yet again, you got Yamamoto going tonight. And in game 5, you could use Jack Flaherty. You could finish this series in 5 games if you wanted to. And I'm guessing that's where they're shoot for, because you're going to have some time off. I have a feeling we're going to have a little bit of time off from baseball, because I think the other series is going to end early too. And you're going to have enough time to rest your starters. And it sounds like we might, if everything works out, and we have what we're thinking is going to be a Yankees-Dodgers World Series, we're probably going to have 2 aces to start the World Series in game 1, which that's always fun.
Yeah, whenever you can get those, you can kind of clinch early, you get a chance to set those rotations up. So it makes it a lot more fun there. I do, on the Ohtani thing, hits a home run last night, scores multiple runs. So this is not just, there was guys on base. And this has been a big conversation point, is for Shohei Ohtani in this postseason. He is 7 for 9 with 2 homers and 8 RBI with men on base, and 0 for 22 when the bases are empty. And it's not 100% definitive, but it feels like the issue that you have with Ohtani and his odd performance in the postseason kind of feels like it's twofold. I think the first one is, we have to remember this is a small sample size, right? I mean, this is literally like 9 at-bats. This is 31 at-bats here, right? So some of it's just random flukiness. But I do think also there is something to be said for what Shohei Ohtani is trying to do at the plate, because he's getting behind when there's nobody on base. And if you go and you look at, like, pitchers are pitching him differently with runners on base than when not. There's like nothing different as far as, do you throw him a first pitch strike or not with runners, like with the bases are empty. But Ohtani is swinging significantly more than in the regular season. Bases empty in the regular season, he swung like 44% of the time. In the postseason, it's 67%. Like in August, he swung at exactly 4 first pitches outside of the zone with the bases empty all month. He's already done it 6 times in the postseason. It's just he is being much more aggressive with nobody on in the postseason. But with runners on, pitchers are being significantly more cautious about giving him a pitch to hit. In September, runners on base, his first pitch was in the zone 56% of the time. Because of that, he swung like 51% of the time. So almost, he swung just about every time that pitch was in the zone. Now, in the month of October, entering last night, he got a first pitch in the zone with runners on 27% of the time. So it cut in half. His first pitch swings have cut down from 51% to 36. So he's being a lot more aggressive than he needs to be when there's nobody on. And he's having a much better approach when runners are on base. And I think that I don't know why that is. I don't know why he's being much more aggressive with nobody on. But either way, when you get behind on the first pitch and you get into a quick 0-1 hole, you across the league have significantly worse outcomes in the at-bats. That's what's happening to Ohtani. It's not some sort of weird curse. It's not some sort of like weird thing. It's just he's getting behind in just about every at-bat when there's nobody on base. Again, I don't know why. I mean, maybe he just wants to hit some postseason homers because it's fun, but
Do you
that's
think
what's
it has
happening.
anything to do with the fact that it's his first postseason and he's trying to make a
I mean,
name right off the bat? It's got to be, right?
he didn't have to make a name for himself, but
Well,
it could
right.
it could be something to the whole. There's It's his first postseason and he's pressing a little bit. I mean, look at the Atlanta Braves. They fired their hitting coach, and the first thing he said publicly about it was everybody was pressing all year and I couldn't get him to stop. Like this is a hard game. Maybe he is pressing a little bit and he's wanting to get on base so he can steal bases, so he can do all of those things, and he's just too aggressive. I do think that I'm not saying that that's the one thing you can fix and Otani's fine, but I do think if that just regresses back to season averages, you probably see his performance tick back up into the 300 batting average range where he was all year, and that would be I think probably the death knell on anybody who had to face the Dodgers this postseason. Because, like you said earlier, they're getting this done really without the big three doing a ton, right? Yes, Ohtani homered in this game. Betts homered against the Padres, but like you're really getting this done on the strength of your 4 through 9, not on the strength of Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, though, if you look at all the players who played last night, because there was a couple that were pinch hit for and things like
Mhm.
that, Ohtani and Betts are still in like the top 3 when you look at them based on entire OPS. And I
Yeah.
know it's small sample size, so OPS is still not, it's not the greatest stat to look at. But when they do make contact, they're making contact for extra base hits or doing some things. Obviously, Ohtani hit a home run last night, but that stat that you mentioned still rings true because there was 2 men on base. It was a 3-run shot. But hey, Lindsay, if you're going to win a game 8-0 and you're going to get a 3-run home run from Shohei Ohtani, if that's his only hit of the night, I mean, I'm taking that all day.
Yeah, I mean it's not a problem when he goes, 1 for 3, 1 for 4, but that one's a homer. It's just really interesting, and I think that storyline of him being 0 for 22 or whatever it is has gotten really big because it's the postseason. There's only 2 games on at most any given day, and we're noticing things like this. He had streaks in the season that were worse than that against lesser teams, right? It's just because of the postseason, it comes up a lot. Um, Real quick, I do want to, I guess, before we move on, any other thoughts about the Dodgers in this before we get to the Mets, real quick?
No, I think we covered him good.
Okay. For the Mets, is it right to be concerned about the fact that now across 3 games, they've scored like what, 7 runs, and 4 of them came on one swing, that one coming from Mark Vientos? Is it right to be a little bit worried that some of the magic has finally started to wear off of this Mets team?
Yeah, I think it's definitely right to worry about it. If you think about it, this first 3 games is kind of like the first 3 games of the Guardians Tigers series. You had a shutout on one side, shutout on the other side. It went back and forth. Blowout on each side, if you will. And the Guardians took a 2-1 lead afterwards. So I'm just, the way I look at this is, the Mets, they're people keep saying that they're playing with house money, but now that you have a chance to make the World Series, I don't know if you can say that anymore. But now that you are starting to get behind, I think that narrative is going to slowly start creeping back its way in, because they they shouldn't be where they're at. A lot of people
Mhm.
feel that way. But when you're looking at how they've performed over these last couple games, with the exception of a grand slam and a blowout win, they're not performing well. And you get a home run from Lindor and Vientos in that game that you win. Great, awesome. But other than that, if you look at last night's game, they had 4 hits total. One was from Vientos, one was from Nimmo. You had one from Marte and one from Iglesias. Other than that, you had a really tough time at the plate. 13 strikeouts, Lindsay. 3 of them came from, again, Francisco Alvarez. I, I still am going to ring that bell again. They need to make a change at catcher. I don't think that's going to be like the deciding factor of them winning this series, but something needs to happen. How the Phillies changed out Alex Bohm for a game to try and recharge the offense, and it worked for about a game. Maybe you do that with Alvarez. I don't know, but there's a lot of things that need to change with this Met squad. And first of all, they got to score with runners in scoring position. They're 0 for 4 last night with
Mhm.
leaving 8 guys on base. But it's all around an issue, and I agree. I do think that, other than a couple home run swings, they've really been absent in this series. And now that the pitching of the Dodgers is finally starting to figure themselves out, if Yamamoto has a hot game, you're down 3-1. And I don't want to be down 3-1 to the Dodgers, who are not playing their best baseball, because eventually you got to think they're going to find it.
The thing that concerns me, I think, is those 2 losses, game 1 and game 3, you combined for 7 hits, and they're all singles. And similar to an at bat, if you're batting and you're tied, like, it's a 1-1 count, the most important pitch and the pitch that has the most relevance on the outcome of the at bat is pitch 3, right? If you go up 2-1 or you go down 1-2. And in this series, knowing that you were at home for 3 games, game 3 was a must win. Because if you go up 2-1 in the series and you have 2 more home games, and you can force it to go up to 4 games, right? You have the advantage in the series. But now you are down 2-1. You only get 2 more games at home and then 2 more games in LA. So you have given up home field advantage now. You've given it back to Los Angeles. And for some reason, and I don't know why, Carlos Mendoza is not wanting to change the lineup. It's been the same lineup every single day. And I know that it didn't work in game 1. They turned around. You had a bunch of runs early in game 2. Like, I understand those same guys did it. And then game 3, back to doing nothing. Um, I don't know why you've seen the reluctance to change the lineup from Carlos Mendoza. And if you're not willing to, with the caveat of 90 innings of a pitcher's splits is not necessarily definitive enough to make 5 changes in your lineup, right? But I think tonight, if you run out the same lineup again, 1 through 9 versus Yamamoto, I feel like that's probably a sign that the Dodgers are going to win this series, because you're at the point now. If it's not the postseason, I don't care. But in the postseason, you're at the point of you cannot just keep doing the same thing and hoping to get better results. You don't have the kind of time required to do that. You've got to change some things. You've got to find some different starters, put somebody else in there, do something. And I think we'll get a lot of information about what the outcome of this series is going to be based on tonight's lineup for game 4.
Yeah, and you're asking for a perfect time to recharge this lineup, because you have arguably your hottest pitcher on the mound tonight in Jose Quintana. He is not allowed to run so far in his 2 starts this postseason
Mhm.
across 11 innings of work, only 6 hits allowed. He struck out 11 across 11 innings. I mean, that's exactly what you need from a starting pitcher in the postseason. So I think we're in for a really good pitching matchup tonight. But what I'm curious about is what's going to happen with this Mets offense. That's the biggest thing. I'm not really worried about the Dodgers offense, even though some of the top players aren't performing the way they are. Overall, 1 through 9, they're doing a lot better than what the Mets are. If the Mets offense cannot wake up, this series is going to go to 3-1, regardless of how good Jose Quintana pitches tonight. And that's going to be an issue. I don't think you're going to come back from a 3-1 deficit, not from the Dodgers.
No, not with this Dodgers team where the starting pitching's finally looking pretty good and things like that. Okay, we're going to get to the doubleheaders tonight and the expected starting pitchers and some predictions and all that. But first, Tampa Bay Rays, obviously we saw they had a lot of damage to Tropicana Field. The roof was ripped off when Hurricane Milton hit Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Times dropped a report yesterday that based on what they understand, what they've heard, what they've been told, Tropicana Field will not be repaired in time to open the 2025 season on March 27th. So, if you can't play in Tropicana Field, where do the Rays play in 2025?
The Oakland Coliseum has the biggest chance to do the funniest thing ever right now. The Oakland A's to the Oakland Rays. Let's go. No, that would be really tough, honestly. Like, it would be a really funny thing overall for baseball, but
Yeah.
moving from Tampa to Oakland, the scheduling would just be a nightmare and the fans would probably hate it. And yeah, I don't think that's the way to go, but it would
Mhm.
definitely be the funniest thing ever. But I think there's a lot of other baseball stadiums in Florida that
Yeah.
would work out, right? I mean, there's plenty. There's colleges, there's spring training complexes everywhere. That would kind of make the most sense.
Yeah, I think it comes down to I think the question here is going to be, is this a temporary home for a few months while that roof gets repaired? Is this for the full season? Or is this for all 3 years until the new ballpark opens in 2028, which has been approved? Construction has not started, but it's been approved by, I believe, the St. Pete City Council or whoever had to make that final vote. That final vote has happened. It is approved. It is going to happen. They just haven't started building yet. And to your point, there are a lot of available facilities in the area. Al Lang Stadium there in St. Pete, right there on the water, is owned by the Rays. It used to be, I believe, a spring training facility for them. It is now, it has been converted into a soccer field, but it can be converted back. I believe what I read, it could be converted back in time for the season to start. You've got spring training facilities. Clearwater has a Baycare ballpark. That's the Phillies. Dunedin has TD Ballpark. That's the Blue Jays. Steinbrenner Field is in Tampa. That's the Yankees. You do have, if you go down a little bit farther, Bradenton has I can't remember the name, but it's the single A affiliate for the Pirates. It's their spring training home, and then the single A, I think the Bradenton Marauders play there. So like you've got a lot of stuff within driving range. None of those have a roof though. And you have a lot of issues with weather delays in Florida, pop-up rainstorms, things like that. Obviously, the heat. They would all need upgrades to meet the amenities required to host major league games. Right, the clubhouses, the different things that you're required to have as part of the CBA. It's not just a we don't think we can sell enough seats here. This is no, you have specific requirements. And then a lot of those are used by minor league teams. And so you'd have to figure out, scheduling conflicts, if compensation to those organizations, all those kind of things. The Port Charlotte, their spring training home, 90 miles away. That's an option. Disney's Wide World of Sports Complex. It's across the state over in New Orlando. They played 2 regular season series there in the past. They held part of their spring training there last year while Port Charlotte was being repaired from a hurricane last year. So there's options here. I just don't think any of them are good. Charlotte Sports Park holds 6,800 people. Again, it's 90 miles away. Not a lot of options nearby for lodging for both the players, the fans, things like that. If you wanted to put them in Lone Depot Park in Miami and have them share with the Marlins, that would be they have 49 conflicting home dates. You'd have to do some odd double headers. You'd have to move some games around. You'd probably have to find some alternate stuff. There's no easy answer here, but I think the biggest thing is you've got to figure this out quickly, right? I mean, you have what is it? You have 100 and I had this here 161 days until opening day, and you've got to get this worked out. So nothing is good. I do think from what the reporting was from the Times, they likely would stay in the Eastern time zone for TV purposes. I think Oakland's off the table simply because how hard would it be to both get fans into the ballpark in Oakland, but also have the game start early enough where fans in Tampa could watch them?
Yeah.
I kind of think it would be really interesting to see them travel around the state, right? Do some stuff with the Marlins in Lone Depot Park, but also do some stuff at Disney around all the youth events they have. Do some stuff in Port Charlotte. Heck, take them farther out. You had an idea, see if they can play something in Gainesville at the University of Florida's ballpark. Oh, Charles Schwab Field in Omaha, Nebraska, where they hold the College World Series. It seats 24,000 people. It's the biggest stadium in the U.S. without a major league team. Send them up there for a series. Let them play. Let them play some teams that are nearby to the Midwest. Let them play some. Let them play a series with the Royals or with the Cardinals or something in Nebraska. I think you could do a lot of fun stuff here. The question's going to be, is there a will to get that stuff done? We do know that the from the Times, the city of St. Petersburg is responsible for fixing the stadium, not the Rays. Insurance will help cover some costs. So insurance will end up covering almost everything. Question's going to be how long does it take and what do they do in the meantime? And I do honestly think they could really have some fun with this. And I think the best thing to do is to let the team travel around for a season.
Hey, there's a conversation about expanding the league in a few years. Some of the names around there are Charlotte, are Nashville, and if you remember, also Montreal. There was a chance that Montreal was going to host a couple of Rays series a couple of years ago. That just fell through. There's a chance they could try that this year. And
that's an Eastern
time.
time.
I think the worst case scenario would be, and this isn't going to happen, but the worst case scenario would be they would just make the Rays play all their games away. And that would be absolutely terrible. But I don't think that's going to happen. But that, I guess, is technically an option. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to see what they do.
The drop in revenue that you wouldn't get from the sponsorship, the marketing, the ticket sales, refunds. You'd probably have to furlough staff if you did that because you're not going to you don't need as many field prep, game day operations, ticketing people if you're on the road. So I think they got to find a way to let them play as close to home as possible. Question's just going to be, what is it going to be? And honestly, I think touring the state would be the best way to do it. We'll see what happens. Okay, moving on to tonight's games. 2 games, 5:08 p.m. Eastern's the first start time on TBS. Yankees versus Guardians. Clark Schmidt goes for the Yankees. He takes on Matthew Boyd of the Guardians. How do we feel about Yankees? Do they make it 3-0 in this series, or do the Guardians pick up a win in the ALCS here?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the Yankees in this one. However, Matt Boyd's looked really good in his outings, but he's only gone a few innings. He's almost seen as an opener, if you will, in this one. He's gone. I think he only went 2 innings in his last outing. He only has 6 innings across his 2 starts in the postseason so far, but he hasn't allowed a run during those times. 10 strikeouts across those 6 innings as well. So he's going to start off strong, and I think if Cleveland can take advantage of that, that's huge. But regardless if that, it all depends on what happens after. Guardians bullpen has obviously been great all season long.
Mm-hmm.
But this Yankee squad, man, they look really good. And it's hard for me to bet against them, even though they're heading to Cleveland at the moment. I don't think you can, after what we've seen from the Yankees the last 2 games, I don't think it's right for me to lean any other way other than Yankees. I think it's going to be New York going up 3-0.
I think as I dug more into how the Guardians do at home, I do think that they might take the game tonight. 50-30 at home this year, best record in the American League at home. A lot of, if you look at the last series against the Tigers, 2 of their 3 wins came at home. Game 1, 7-0 series opening victory. 5 runs in the first inning, they exploded. Game 5, Lane Thomas hit that grand slam. 2 of their 3 wins in that series came at home. And some of their players do significantly better at home. They batted .245 at home, .231 on the road. They hit 99 homers at home, 86 on the road. Josh Naylor's OPS is 150 points higher at home. Jose Ramirez bats almost 50 points better with an 80-point increase in OPS at home. Both of those guys have been very quiet in the postseason. They need to get hot. I think I'm going to go on a little. I do still think New York wins this series. I do still think it probably never makes it back to New York. But I think if Cleveland wins a game, I think it's probably this one. I think Cleveland can probably take tonight's matchup, make it a 2-1 series, and then the Yankees probably end up taking the next 2 and win the whole thing. But I do think if Cleveland's going to get it done, it's going to be tonight. The other series, Dodgers at Mets. Again, Dodgers up 2-1 in the series. Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus Jose Quintana. I kind of feel like we both like the chances of the Mets tying it up. It's just a question of, does the offense finally show up? Does Carlos Mendoza change the lineup? Or does he just go in and just hope that the same thing that they've rolled out all postseason, having faltered for really the first time all October, that it fixes itself in Game 4?
Yeah, if the Mets don't win this game, the series is over. I'll wave that flag now. Jose Quintana, I think, has to pitch the best pitching, outing he's had in his entire career, because it could potentially be the last postseason start he's ever had in his career. He's already 35. He's got to let everything loose. And even if he does, it still might not be enough, because what we've seen from this Braves offense over the last couple games. So
Dodgers offense. Yeah.
It's got to be, no, I mean, Mets offense of how bad it's been. So, I mean, it's got to be an all around good outing from the Mets squad, offense and on pitching. When Quintana's done, the bullpen's got to step up, but I don't even know if that's going to be enough. But I'm leaning towards the Mets just because I think they have to get it done. If it doesn't, the series is over.
Yeah, I don't know if this series makes it back to LA either way. But I do think if the Mets win one, they probably win tonight versus winning on Friday. I'm still not 100% convinced that Yamamoto is fully healthy and ready to go. Obviously, we saw what he looked like in that last start that he made. He goes like 5 innings. It was 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Didn't have a lot of swing and miss stuff against San Diego. The first time out, he got shelled. The second time, he got through it. Again, you'll always take 5 innings of no-run ball, but I still don't feel like he's truly back. And can the Dodgers get it done with 2.5 starters? Maybe. The bullpen is, like you said earlier in the show, pretty well rested. They didn't use a lot of the high-leverage guys other than Kopech yesterday, and he pitched 1 inning, under 20 pitches. With an off day coming up, you can definitely use him again. But yeah, no, it feels like the Mets have to win this one, and we'll see what happens. I hope they do, but we'll see what happens. If you're listening on audio, do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we drop the next episode. And either way, we'll see you next time right here on First Pitch.